created GSD, which stands for the Getting Shit Done Network and stuff over there. He's absolutely been an icon in the Phoenix market. And Joshua Smith, man, I am so thrilled that you could join us here today. How's it going today, brother?
Yeah, it's going amazing, man. I'm honored to be here with all of you guys. I'm really excited for this, and I appreciate the kind words, dude. And you're right. I mean, Phoenix is, it's what was 60,000 agents, roughly the most saturated real estate market per capita on the planet. And
Yeah.
even as much as I've, done over my career, it's like we got cats like George Lawton who does like 1.7 billion a year, right, as a
Yes.
team. So it's a very humbling market to be in, but I love it because it forces us to always have to level up our game.
Absolutely, absolutely, or move markets, right? Because when I moved to Vegas, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm the top dog over here. I should have moved a long time ago." But man, it's been a fun run. Tell everybody, how long have you been in real estate now?
So got in the business in 2005. So been at this almost 20 years. May will mark my 20-year anniversary. So jumped in 2005, did 48 deals my first year. That led me to hiring my first assistant because I wanted to double going into year number two. But I was like, just doing the math, I'm like, man, there's not enough hours in a day. So hired my first admin. That brought me to 103 the second year. Then
Hold on,
that's
hold on, time out. We can't just gloss over this here, right? Like we have some people that have been in the market for 20 years and want to do 48 deals now. As a brand new agent out of the gate, how do you hit the ground running like that? Did you have a silver spoon? Like where do you pull 48 deals from your first year in real estate?
Yeah, it was interesting, because I just moved from Michigan to Phoenix, Arizona. So I didn't know anybody. I had zero sphere of influence. I had to start from scratch. And I always tell people, dude, it was two things. It was twofold. Number one, I was at that right point in my life where I was a college dropout, never made more than $10 an hour before I got into real estate. So I was so sick and tired of just being broke. So I had that fire. I had that, hey, whatever I got to do, I'm sick of feeling like a freaking loser. I'm going to grind because you got to have that fire. You got to have that passion. But then just from being a kid growing up playing a lot of sports, I was like, dude, I know I need a right mentor. 23 years old, again, never been in business, just had a bunch of crappy jobs prior to this. So I was like, I'm going to find the biggest badass that I possibly can, figure out a good way to go work for him. Now he had a team. I knew I didn't want to join his team because I knew I wanted to create this into a business and start my own team eventually. But he
Yeah.
owned the brokerage as well. So I was still able to go work for him, have him as my broker and be able to mentor me. So, he gave me the roadmap. I mean, I had to execute 12 hours a day and 7 days a week,
Yeah.
but he gave me the roadmap. And it was the combination of having the right mentor with the right roadmap to eliminate the guesswork. Plus, like you can have the roadmap, dude, but if you're not willing to work the plan, it's irrelevant. So, but I was at that stage of my life where it's like, whatever I got to do, dude, I'm going to do it.
I love it. So you hire your first assistant after your first year, 48 deals in the books. Where does it go from there?
103 the second. And then that brought me to another capacity where, I just didn't, dude, it was like I'd have a buyer client or a seller client reach out to, or a potential client for a consultation. And I was like 2 to 3 weeks booked out. So then I'm like, okay, nobody's going to wait. They might wait 2 or 3 days. They're not going to wait 2 or 3 weeks. So at that point in time, I realized I was just leaving a lot of money on the table, pissing away money. So that's when I started hiring agents. So at the end of 2006, when teams weren't really even a thing, that's where I
Yeah.
started bringing on agents to help with my overflow. And then that kicked me up into the, 300 unit range and have been, popping hundreds of units every year ever since.
Damn. And so what's the peak year that what's the biggest year that you've had in real estate? 20 years in the business. What's your biggest year?
Yeah, biggest year volume wise was 796 unit wise. And then I've had years though, like if you look at like last year was God, what did we hit up? Just under 300 million, but lesser units.
Okay. Yeah, because price points and stuff are going crazy over there right now. I mean, I used to have some like a big part of our group is big into the REO, the foreclosure space. I remember selling a home for $6,000,
Yeah.
right? And you're hard pressed to find something under 250 like in Phoenix. Like, and that would be a slum, right? Like the market has changed so much at this point in time. You're absolutely right.
It's wild.
Well,
I always tell people like the vast majority of my career, yeah, I was slinging $200,000 properties, man. And back, if you look at during the great financial crisis, because we had to pivot so hard because Phoenix is one of the hardest hit markets. So it pivoted to working with 35 banks and asset manager, outsourcers. And dude, I remember the year I won the 30 under 30. I did what was like 463 units, but it was like
Yeah.
50 million in gross volume sales.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's
tell people,
just
they're like, oh my
crazy.
God, you did 322 deals. I was like, I had to. My average price point was $109,000, right? Like
Yep.
if I didn't, my family was not eating or anything else. Well, man, you have done so much. And then when did the GSD mode come into play? Like it sounds like it's always kind of been there, but when did that become like your identity? When did you start to build that out?
So it was about 10 years ago. And what had happened at that point is, look, I was like, even before I got licensed, because I was like, again, dude, I knew I needed the roadmap. So I started interviewing as I was going to real estate school, top agents in the market, guys like Russell Shaw, where if anybody doesn't know who Russell Shaw is, he's kind of the godfather of the team. This dude's done, like 300 plus units a year for like 30 years straight. And guys like him, dude, like when I was a nobody, had nothing that I could possibly ever pay back, contribute to his life. Like he went and spent 3 hours with me at lunch and just mapped out a roadmap. And then I remember getting into REO and, the king of REO, he's the number one Remax agent in the country at the time, Scott Gibson. Him and George Lott were business partners. Dude, I mean, he went and spent hours and hours and hours with me, just mapping out my whole entire game plan to scale this up. And again, I mean, at a point in time where I had nothing to contribute and be able to pour back in. And so I had so many people always doing that for me. And that's one lesson I just to give you guys a piece of advice, man, is the top of the top in this industry are the most helpful human beings on the planet. So never be afraid to reach out to them because they'll give you time, right? But then it was always okay if I ever get to the point where I'm one of the top and I have people reaching out to me, I'm always going to say yes because there's no way I'd be where I am if I didn't have people pouring into me. Where again, I could never transfer any value back to their life. But then it got to a point, dude, where now I got 3 kids, I'm married, I got multiple businesses, and I just didn't have enough time to go out there and allow everybody to take me to lunch. But I'd already committed to, hey, I'm going to do this. So then now YouTube was coming out and was kind of a big thing at that point, or becoming a big thing. So then I just started telling people, hey, dude, just send me your questions. Like the whole podcast, none of this was intentional. I was just like, dude, send me over your questions. I'll answer them just like I would if we were at lunch. But this way, now you'll have this video that you'll be able to save to re-reference. So it'll be more powerful, more beneficial for you. Plus, I'll just start putting them out there for other people. So I just started doing that. It just started taking off. And then I was like, well, I probably should come up with a name, and GSD was just, get shit done was just always a motto, of ours, within the team. So just decided to name it GSD mode. And, so there was no plan for it. There was no intention for it. Just kind of like most things in my life, dude, it just kind of happened on accident.
Just kind of happened. Well, man, it's a beautiful thing because one, you've served a lot of people, right? And since you've developed kind of your mouthpiece, your social media channels, right? Like this has just helped so many people. And guys, we've talked about this a lot, right? Like real estate is not a secret, right? And we can get like most of us, right? We do business planning sessions. We have the roadmap in front of us. It's coming back. And Josh, unless you tell me different, right? Like I've been searching for almost 20 years here for the easy button. Like I haven't found that shit yet, but it's getting up and doing the right shit every single day over and over and over again. And then you get lucky, right? And then this happens and this happens because you're putting yourself out there and you're in the right place at the right time. Like disagree, or do you have the easy button that you can share with us?
No, it's funny, dude, because like when you and I first got in the game, there was no podcast, there was no YouTube, there was no. So for me to, like, I'd have to jump on airplanes. In my first year, I spent about 40 grand on airplane, between hotels and airline tickets of just traveling out to visit top producers from all over the country. And at first I was really disappointed, dude, because I expected to find some secret sauce. I expected to find some magic pill, but it's like, dude, they were doing nothing different than what pretty much everybody else is taught to do in this industry. They just do it more consistently and they focus on mastery at a much higher level. But yeah, there
Yeah.
is no such thing as easy button. Now
Yeah.
there's a better way. I found that there's a
Sure.
more effective way for sure if you understand strategy, systems, processes, and master your skill set. There's a much better, more effective way of doing this, but there definitely is no easy button, man.
Yeah, I tell everybody here, right? When we work backwards, we know their number of contacts and stuff like that. Look, you could go and say the wrong thing to 50 people a day. Like that was me. I was a big Mike Ferry agent. It was 50 calls a day, setting 12, 14 appointments a week. I got really good at my scripting, right? Like I got really good at my skills. I got really good at matching and mirroring and started learning NLP and all of this other stuff, right? If you say the wrong thing every single day, guys, you're going to get lucky. But then when you start to work on your skills and you become better and you add more damn value to people than anybody else, like that's where the magic starts to happen. And this is where now we have technology and AI and all of this that can expedite your path, right? Like you don't have to go through all of the same things that Josh went through and I went through, because there's YouTube, because there's coaching programs that will give you the shorter version and stuff there. So now we're 20 years into this, right? Like the market, right, has been going up, man, for 15 years now, right? Like think of like 2008, 2009 being the bottom. We've been going like this. Like, what do you see coming down the pipeline? What are you doing? Like, what do you see coming? And where are you preparing with you and your group and stuff here for 2025?
Yeah, okay, so we're looking at 2025, the near future. I look at 2025 as being a lot of the same as 2024, probably slightly harder. We're amongst this unaffordability crisis where it's the most unaffordable time to be alive as a US citizen. And so this is not an easy fix. People all hear all the time when people are like, oh, dude, once interest rates come down, I'm like, number one, what gives you any faith that they're going to come down? And we can talk about that. But number two, even if they come down, like you remove real estate from the equation, every time you go to the grocery store, every time you go out to eat, cost eggs, like everything has gotten so insanely expensive. And what a lot of people don't realize is when we have a federal government printing $1 trillion every 100 days, like that is about 8% inflationary year over year. And they're in a position now where they're forced to do that just to service their debt and keep the programs that they have in play right now. So if you look at CPI plus that, it's like, dude, life is probably going to get 11% more expensive year over year, for some time to come. This is not a quick, easy fix. So with that, it's like, okay, I see there's two things that would need to happen. One of two things, or a combination of both. Either wages need to double or triple in a very quick period of time to bring back affordability, or we got to experience some massive deflation. And my bet is on the latter, man. My bet is on, if you look at if you go to St. Louis Federal Reserve, their website. So the St. Louis Federal Reserve is the department that's in charge of tracking all the data for the consumer. So if you go Google St. Louis Federal Reserve consumer debt chart, so look at the consumer debt to savings chart. At no period of time in history, recorded history, have we seen debt to savings of the average consumer be this wide. And at no point in time have we seen it accelerate at the speed that it is. I mean, it's like 4 times greater than it was before the great financial crisis. So I'm not saying that we're going to experience another great financial crisis, but what I'm saying is the consumer's in a way worse off position today than they were before the great financial crisis, way worse off position than they were before the Great Depression. So what I'm planning for, and I don't have a timeline on this, but what I'm planning for is, the correction to be much more severe than the great financial crisis and much more severe than the Great Depression. I don't know a path out of this. Now, they might be able to kick the can down the road further, who knows, but I think things are going to get extremely, extremely ugly. I don't know when a timeline is on that. They've been able to kick the can down the road much longer than I think anybody would have ever been able to anticipate. But that's what I'm prepping and planning for. Now, I don't say that to like fear anybody. There's more millionaires and billionaires created during down markets, hard markets, recessions, depressions than there are during up markets. My first mentor used to always tell me, like, dude, great agents make way more in challenging and down markets than they do in good, strong markets. And it never made sense to me until I experienced the great financial crisis. And then I'm like, oh, yep, now I get it. Now I understand it. And we're experiencing the same thing right now. I mean, you saw NAR stats, 76% of realtors, either 74, 76% of realtors hadn't closed one transaction the first 6 months of 2024. So it's like right now you're either seeing people crushing it and killing it, have the best career or the best year of their career, or they're just getting wiped out and getting murdered, right? So, you just got to, the cool thing is we all have a choice of which side of that equation that we want to be on. So you just got to pick and choose.
Yeah. And this is where, a big part of my group, I mean, I had built Carrington up, which was an asset management company, brokerage, et cetera. Now I've partnered with all of our competitors. I think we have about 6 different asset management companies, and literally we're just prepping for the next cycle. Right? It's not for today business. Like if we get today business, it's just a bonus. It's looking ahead of where this market is going and being strategically aligned with all of those resources and stuff here. Because like their forecast looks very similar to yours, right? We have consumer debt at an all-time high. We have auto loans. I've been telling my wife, like, pick out your dream car. Like in the next 4 to 5 years, we're buying it, right? Like I don't need to go and buy it right now. Like even though now is not a bad time, but there's some like car dealerships, right, that have 72 months supply of inventory. It's supply and demand, guys. Like you'll see the same thing with houses. Luxury market. At one point, we had 4 years supply of luxury homes on the market. That was the time to buy your dream home, right? You could have bought a house on Camelback Mountain for 1.2 million, right? That's probably 19 million and stuff here today. Like that is the time, not doing what everybody else is doing, right? With the investing and this and that, like doing the opposite. And there's going to be so many opportunities. So let's dig into that a little bit, right? So, not doom and gloom, because to me, the market's never good, bad. It's just different. Right, but you're anticipating that it can't continue to go up, which a lot of this group is in full agreement on at that point in time. But what are some of the biggest, what are a couple of the biggest challenges that you're seeing for realtors that are out there, and how do they overcome them?
Yeah, so like if we look at, okay, just speaking of right now, right? Well, first off, let me just say this because I'm 1,000% in alignment with you, where the philosophy that I've always abided by, and this is what's allowed my business to continue to grow every single year for 20 years straight, regardless of the marketplace, is that I never look at the market as a good market or a bad market. It's the understanding the market is always good for somebody. As real estate professionals, it's our job to identify whom the market is good for, pivot, shift, adapt accordingly. Because it's like, okay, my job is to move the real estate. So it's like, okay, here's the geographical location that I work. My product is the real estate. My job is to move the real estate. That's the one constant that never changes. The variable, if we look at this as a science experiment, that's always changing, is who's buying it, who's selling it, why are they buying, why are they selling, where they're coming from, where they're going. So that's the variable that's always changing. So our job is to pay attention to the variable and pivot, shift, and adapt our strategies accordingly, with that. And if you do that, like there's always going to be massive opportunity for you. Now, the 2 reasons why I'm seeing most struggle right now is it's twofold. Number one, they're just winging it. They're still just winging it. Look, 2012 through 2022, longest bull market in recorded history, longest economic expansion in recorded history, longest real estate expansion in recorded history, something that we've never seen since 1776. So yeah, you could just wing it. You could just kind of show up, kind of work, kind of be consistent and go out there and make multiple 6 figures, and it was easy street. I hear so many people like, oh, I can't wait for the market to get back to normal. And they're thinking that we're going to get back to them. Like, it's the first time since 1776. This is more normal today of what we're experiencing than what we experienced for the last decade. So probability of that happening is very, very low. But we can't just wing it. We got to treat our business as a business. And by that, I mean having a strategy plan with precision, so you know exactly who you're targeting. And I can go deeper into how to come up with the right strategy based on the market shifts, but you got to know exactly who you're targeting, and not just who you're targeting, but okay, you got to know what you must do every single day to win. Here's exactly how many leads I must generate. Here's how many reach outs, conversations, appointments set, appointment conductions, clients closing out. Here's exactly precisely what I must do every day, every week, every month to go out there and win. So we got to have a strategy plan with precision, then wrap processes around that strategy plan, then put those processes inside systems, and then making sure that we track everything, all the essential KPIs that we need to be tracking. That's what I mean by treating your business as a business, not winging it. So number one reason why people are struggling right now is because they're still just winging it. Number two is they're playing defense, and they have not yet switched to playing strategic offense. So again, we had such an easy period of time where you could just wait for crap to come to you and do okay and do well. Now when I'm talking about strategic offense, I mean, okay, strategic meaning like who are you targeting that has the highest probability of needing your services in this marketplace? And by offense of, okay, what are you doing to go after them where your fate's in your own hands? You're not waiting for crap to come to you right now. It's like if you execute on this plan and you're playing the right level of offense, you are guaranteed to go out there and hit your target and hit your goals. So those are the top 2 reasons why I'm seeing people struggle right now, is still winging it and playing too much defense.
Winging it and playing too much defense. And guys, we just went through this, right? We got into 2025. We went through building business plans. A lot of our coaches and stuff on here literally hosted classes, like teaching others. Like that's the first part. If you don't know what you're supposed to be doing every single day, like you're guessing, right? You better hope and pray that you hit your goal at this point in time. But if you set some intention, right? You know that you got to make 12 contacts a day, 20 contacts a day, and then you have 3 or 4 pillars, right, of business that, okay, it's going to be center of influence, it's going to be open houses, it's going to be REO, it's going to be Zillow leads. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, but then you execute and you go after that every single day. I cannot stress that enough. Yeah, like, I mean, it's so interesting as we bring on some of the top producers on the in the country to talk on here, right? The message is all very similar. Success leaves a lot of clues, and it's about that consistency of what we're doing every single day, guys. Now, like if I could pivot just slightly, right? Because like, man, you had your own brokerage for quite some time. Is that right?
So I had a franchising company where we had 105 locations throughout the U.S. And then just recently unwinded, my relationship there and got out of that side to join EXP.
Dude, that's a big change for somebody like yourself. Like, what did you see with that opportunity, especially because there's so many other models that are very similar. Like they look the same, they smell the same. There's a few things like debt and equity and all of this other stuff that plays into it. Like, why not take a risk and be on the ground floor of somebody? Like, what did you see with this EXP opportunity versus continuing your franchise, starting your own GSD brokerage, right? Or anything else? What did you see in that opportunity, man?
So I'll first go to why not just do my own thing versus partnering with somebody like EXP. Then I can talk about why I chose EXP versus some of these others. But when we start assessing this and looking at this, dude, it was the the amount of energy and effort that it takes to launch your own thing at a huge scale. You know, and look, I've got a big ego, so thinking I could pull it off but you get at this stuff and you're like, man, I mean, it takes the sacrifice that it takes to do something like Glenn did or a Gary Keller did or is immense, but then from there I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, now I'm 43 and the amount of risk and exposure involved now with all these lawsuits coming down the pike. I have several friends as an example that last year, I'll give one as an example, that were guys I've known for a long time, spent 20 years building up this, very, very successful brokerage, doing about 12,000 units on an annual basis and whatnot. And, because of the NAR settlement, with all the DOJ lawsuits going on, I mean, they were forced to go out there and sell for nothing they did wrong, nothing their agents did wrong. You got some of these people, and that's something that we don't hear a lot about in the news, but a lot of these people got served these, 15, 20, $30 million lawsuits that bootstrapped and self-started their organizations, which is what, we were doing as well. We didn't have big VC funding. We didn't have, and I'm like assessing this. I'm like, dude, one $20 million lawsuit for especially nothing that we did wrong, nothing our agents did wrong will completely wipe me out of the game. So as I started assessing this, I'm like, hey man, this removes that element of liability risk. I mean, EXP's already built it. They're already extremely successful. They can weather the storm like they just did during this last round of lawsuits. And because we're just beginning the phase of these lawsuits, dude.
Yeah.
Now you got the buyer lawsuits coming on. The DOJ's been very, very vocal and very public that they do not like any part of this NAR settlement. They want true commission decoupling. They've reserved their right and reopened their own investigations. So I look at this as just version 1 of so many lawsuits to come. So looking at all of that, and then the fact, dude, if I was 23 and not 43, okay, maybe it's like, hey, maybe I'd roll that dice. But I'm like, dude, I'm 43. I can only reinvent myself so many more times. So I just started looking at risk allocation, because my passion, dude, is, and the reason why I started my own company in the first place was I was sick and tired of, okay, you go join a brokerage and then you got to go hire a freaking coach. I was like, dude, that
Sure.
should not have to take place. Like, you should have, as a broker owner, it should be our responsibility to go out there and coach and support our agents at such a high level where they shouldn't have to go out there and hire, the Tom Ferrys of the world. And and that was my mission, dude, to have, develop an organization where we had the best coaching, training, support that exists out there. And I started assessing the models. I'm like, dude, EXP's model allows us, like, me to plug into all the amazing tools and support and everything that they have, but then for me to obsess over what I enjoy and what I'm really good at, where we can provide that same environment and just realize that, hey, we can do a hell of a lot more together than we can apart. And then assessing, EXP versus their competitors. It's really interesting, dude. I had somebody reach out to me the other day that's a builder at EXP, and they're like, how did you get recruited in? Like, a big player like you, like, how did you get recruited in? Because they wanted to learn to go out there and recruit. And I'm like, I didn't get recruited in. I came to this conclusion on my own that EXP was the best environment for me. Then I went out there and did my own due diligence on Upline. Like, nobody, like, dude, my sponsor never, I've known him for 7 years and I didn't once try to recruit me. This was all just through self-discovery, and self-initiation. But then looking at, like, okay, you look at like and I'm not sure if we're supposed to name drop or not. So I
No,
won't,
you get
but
it. Like, this is an open forum. Like, there's
okay,
no hold
okay.
bars. Like, there's pros and cons to all of these.
Yeah, so I'm looking at, okay, our biggest competitor, really, came kind of down to looking at, Real and EXP. But then, with Real, the things that I didn't like there was, okay, number one, I can't add any plus ones, which I don't get. I don't understand. To me, that makes zero sense. Like, meaning that, okay, if I have a product that I can give to those inside my organization, a coaching product, now I'm prohibited and blocked from doing that because if you can't, they have a very strict policy against that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that takes away my USP. But then also I'm like, okay, in my mind, and I could be wrong, I don't know what their rhyme to the reason behind this, but I'm like, okay, you're more concerned about your reputation of not becoming siloed than you are about truly pouring into your agents. So to me, that wasn't a core value fit, right? I'm like, okay, if you care more about your reputation than doing everything you possibly can to provide the highest level of support to your agents, that shows me that you're, a selfish organization and you care more about, like, you're caring about the wrong things. So that to me was not a core value fit. It pulled away my USP, plus it allowed me to minimize the amount that I could pour into my agents. Plus with, just little facts of like, okay, you have to stay in production to continue getting your rev share. What I love about EXP is, dude, I spent 20 years in the trenches in this industry. I made some decent money, and I've got a lot of awards. But it's like, dude, George Lawton, Larry.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I recruited him into my past brokerage. I got to thank you for that. I got nothing for that. Imagine if I would have brought him into EXP. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just so, it's like, okay, for doing all the same things that we're already doing, you get a chance to win at such a high level, with stock options, with rev share options. And throughout my whole entire career, man, I've seen it over and over and over again where, you get these agents that jump in, they do well enough to provide for their family, but they don't ever do well enough to like truly build wealth, like huge wealth. Because it's very difficult, dude, to build, to stack up enough and to be disciplined enough to buy a bunch of it's so hard, where then it's like, what, you wait till Social Security kicks in, you pack up your little box, and then, so it's the only truly like I kind of coining my own term for EXP of it's like the truly only everyone wins model that exists out there. So I'm just assessing all of this, and I'm like, dude, to me, it was a no-brainer. Now, my regret was for 10 years, I turned a blind eye. I wish to God I would have seen this 10 years ago, but, best time to plant a tree 10 years ago, second best time is today. So,
absolutely.
Those are, and dude, it's so dope. The fact that, okay, we can, go out there and again, not just crush it in our production business and help our agents crush in their production business, but then also help them build an exit strategy and build that wealth. I mean, it's just such a beautiful model, man. I'm so excited and honored to be here.
Yeah. And the collaboration, right? Like, that's one of the things that we see, right? Like, I have some of the top producers in the country that join this call that share their roadmap, that just kind of lay out the formula of what got them to there. And that's really rare in the real estate industry. Even more rare in the REO industry, where everybody's covering up the answers to their tests. Like, I'm not telling you who my asset managers and stuff are, right? And literally, we brought 6 of them, right? I'm introducing them to, the EXP REO and the Revenues department and stuff there for when we don't have coverage, then we can go out and do other things and stuff there. But it's a unique culture, and we talk about that a lot here within our group. We have probably about 800 agents or so given the day in our group, and the collaboration. People are volunteering coaches, sharing what they're doing. There's multiple masterminds every single week that in the past I've had to pay a hell of a lot of money for, and so the success pattern I see is the people that are on these calls, the people that are leaning in, the people that are implementing all of this stuff, like get the most out of it. Right, over 100 Google reviews of people in our group that are like, "Holy shit! I joined. I got 3 listings. Oh, I did this. I did that." Right? They're like over 100 at this point in time, and I just started collecting reviews in the last year and a half at this point in time. So the numbers are telling us, like, shit, we're doing something right, and that's really cool. And how long have you been with EXP now?
So almost 40 days.
Almost 40 days. So here's the coolest part, right? Is literally like calls, messages, etc. When people are like, "Oh my God, this changed my life." Like, that is a bold statement for a real estate company. And I tell people, like, look, our group would be successful no matter what. But to be able to say that we change people's life, whether it's rev share or stock, or they're hitting Icon Agent Award, like that warms the soul. Like on Christmas Day, I was listening to a voicemail on speaker. One of the top producing Remax agents for 20 years in Vegas recently came over, and he's like, "You know what? I just wanted to call and tell you how grateful I was, because we've known each other for a long time. I never really gave you the frame of mind because I was so happy at Remax, etc. And about a year ago, I was calling Larry Wright, and I accidentally dialed Larry White. And then 2 months later, like, I'm a part of your group at EXP, and like life has not been the same since, right? Like, there are so many cool calls. Like, as we can affect the change in other people, like, it just helps us grow as well. So I'm excited for you to get to that part of your journey if it hasn't happened already.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's to your point too, the collaboration, even, outside of organizations, because of the fact that, look, we all win together, man, with stock. And I mean, I've had so many people, that I've been able to jump on the phone with and learn so much from, because again, we all win together collectively, whether with each other's organization or not. So the collaboration has been a massive, it's been absolutely amazing. And I'll tell you, like, for anybody that is looking to build their downlines now, this might sound hypocritical because I'm, brand new to this game. I've only since, like, not counting my team that I was able to bring with me, in the 30, 40 days I've been doing this, I've, only brought in 33 additional people thus far. Got about another 60 commitments right now, and really trying to blow this up. But I'm telling you, man, it's just I've been recruiting, whether it be to teams, brokerages, franchises, for 20 years. And this is the easiest model I've ever recruited to. People are just always like, "Man, this just sounds too good to be true." And I'm like, yeah, it does. But the good news is it's not. When you start stacking the value that they have, and, it's been awesome, man. I'm excited for it. So the mission is, 40,000 agents in 10 years.
40,000 agents, man, that's super cool. And so, obviously you have a lot of value. You've done a lot of really cool things. Where can you type, where people can follow you on social media? How, like, if these guys want to do more with you, right? If they want to follow you, how do they stay connected and stuff with you?
Yeah, you can go to gsdmode.com. That's my website. And on there, you'll see links to, you just go to YouTube, or GSD Mode on YouTube, or, anywhere that you listen or watch podcasts, GSD Mode. That's the best place. I've got thousands of podcast videos and interviews with the top of the industry. And, I just love doing everything I can to give back at a free level to an industry that's changed every aspect of my life.
Beautiful. Well, guys, like, I hope again that you notice a lot of the similarities of success, right? And like while we have Josh here on this call, anybody have questions, comments, like things that they're Joseph? I see you raising your hand. What you got, man?
Joshua Smith, what an honor, man. Like, been following you for a long time. James Cottrell is the guy who brought me to eXp Realty. I know you have a great relationship with James because, James has been with you for a very long time. What has always astonished me about you is that you have really been able to just go out there in the world and just go. Like, it doesn't, and I know there's a lot of work, right? But from the outside looking in, it doesn't seem like there's many barriers mentally for you. Like you just know how to go out there and just go after whatever it is that you have in mind. Share with us a little bit though, behind the scenes. Like what does that look like in reality for someone to just go out there and get over themselves, get over their fears, and go out there and crush?
Yeah, I think because it wasn't always that way, right? So what led me to getting into real estate is a year before real estate, I almost took my own life. I just got to a point where I was so severely depressed, just suicidal thoughts every single day. My low moment was I planned out my suicide. And was like, all right, man, got to shit or get the pot. So let's go execute on this thing. And I didn't execute on it, obviously. But that low moment scared the living crap out of me, dude. It was just I just couldn't believe I let myself get to that low level. And whether you want to call it God or call it call it the universe, it was just this loud internal voice of, hey, let's try a different path. If the other path doesn't work for you, you can always come back here. And to not get into the details of everything that led to that low moment, the reality was I allowed myself to become such a damn victim of blaming everything else, childhood experiences on everybody else and not taking responsibility in my own life. But then at that point, dude, that taught me a lot, man, and through this journey, man, I've had to overcome depression. I used to be 300 pounds morbidly obese and lost, over 100 pounds and kept it off now for well over a decade. And had struggled with alcoholism for about 15 years and now I'm just over 4 years sober. And, so part of it is you overcome these different things. You know, it's funny. I'll get a lot of people that will be like, they'll hear my accolades and they're like, aren't you proud of these? I'm like, no, and it's not that I guess they're kind of cool, whatever. But what I'm most proud of is all the crap that I've been through that I've had to overcome, because dude, like in the industry too, like I've made it, I've lost everything and been hundreds of thousands of dollars in credit card debt, verge of bankruptcy, had to dig myself out of those holes and rebuild. And it's that overcoming of adversity that I'm most proud of, but that also shows us like what we're capable of. So it's like I think failure, dude, and going through hard times is the biggest blessing that God delivers to us in our lives, because then again it just shows us who we're capable of. So it's like every time you go through those, dude, it just shows you that you're stronger than maybe that you thought. And that's just really led to it and added to it. And look, dude, I have limiting beliefs as much as I still, dude, every time I step on stage, like I was in Nashville a few months ago sharing the stage with like Ed Milet and some of these just killers. Dude, I took like before we had the green room in the back before I jump on stage, man, I must have taken like 6 Ps in like a 20-minute span of time before I jumped on that. Like I'm freaking out. I still have massive stage fright. I still get nervous when I got to jump on the calls. Yesterday I made a target list because I'm like, okay, the quickest way to 40,000 agents isn't to go recruit 40,000 agents. It's to go get 40 killers that I know are capable of building 1,000-person downlines and let me go run hard with them and support them. So, okay, yes, like I'm making this list. I'm reaching out to the biggest killers in this industry. And yeah, I'm nervous as hell, but it's like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? They're going to say no. So it's not one of these things I don't still like. I feel fear. I feel all the emotions everybody else feels. I guess I've just lived in the two different extremes of absolutely hating myself and when I'm not taking action, because like my only why, dude, in life is just to look in the mirror and be proud of the person that I see. And not just from an aesthetic level, but like looking deep in your eyes and being proud of that person that I see. And I found the only time that I'm proud of that person is, dude, when I'm getting out of my comfort zone, when I'm facing my fears, when I'm forcing myself to expand and grow, So I don't know, hopefully that answers your question, but think that that's the key for me.
I love that, man. I love that. And yeah, it's breaking outside of that comfort zone is where we get the most growth, which is, my hippie ass. So like we're doing cold plunges, we're doing all kinds of, not because I love it, right? Like there's not one day that I love jumping in that cold plunge, but it's not negotiating with myself, right? Like when I tell myself we're going to do something, like that's it. Like it's decided at that point in time. And now I go after it and I get it. And there's a lot of things. How do we expand that, right? Whether we're in the gym and it's that last rep, right? Like that you're pushing out. It's a hell of a lot easier to pull that back and quit. But those lessons are where we grow the most and how we come. And then we got to learn from those. Right, which is why I'm selling most of my real estate and stuff right now, and like really cash heavy coming into this next cycle because I've seen this before. I went through the short sales, the foreclosures. I couldn't use bank accounts and all of this other shit because everybody was coming after me because I owed so much money at that point in time, and I never want to be there again. Right, like I've learned that lesson, and so now it's about again. I'm a year older, but at the age of 44. Now, like, no, I don't want to start over and do this again. Like, that is not worth the risk because we have such a beautiful life that we have right now. And gratitude has also been really big to us, which is why we start with it every single Friday here.
Yeah, and something I learned from Tim Ferriss a long time ago. It was one of his podcasts. I've never met him, but fan of his podcasts and his books. But he was like, dude, just really break things down and assess it. Like if you really start breaking things down, like what's the worst that can happen? Because I get a lot of people that come to me saying, dude, your risk tolerance is so high. You take so many big risks, and look, and I do, and I've lost more than I've won, with those risks. But with that, it's like, okay, I break this stuff down. I'm like, okay, worst case scenario, I lose everything, file bankruptcy. But hey, I still got my health, got my wife, got my kids, got our dogs. We go live in a studio apartment, living on air mattresses on the floor. I'm like, hey, life is still pretty damn good at that point. We still have our love, still have our health. Like life is pretty damn good at that point. And maybe it's because, I grew up so poor where, I kind of grew up in that way of like knowing that, hey, man, life can still be good with that. So when you start really assessing this and breaking this down of like, what's the worst that can happen? Because, just like little things like cold calls, like just like so many people, dude, I used to spend more time looking at the damn phone than I would dialing. I had such a massive fear of that rejection, but then when you start really chunking it down and breaking down and thinking of it methodically, it's like, okay, hey, man, I'm afraid of a stranger on the other piece of this device telling me no, that then I'm not going to take the actions to go out there and provide for my family. Because you're going to have to say no to somebody. You're either going to have to tell your kids at one point that, hey, no, sorry, I can't send you to college. Where now you're going to have to go get yourself in a mountain of debt and start your adult life in a mountain of debt because I was too much of a coward to go reach out to some strangers that could care less if I got hit by a car on the freeway today. So just when you really start thinking this stuff through and breaking this stuff down, it just kind of gets to the point where it's like, hey, it's kind of silly. Yeah, right. And then we just start get ourselves in taking different actions.
And if you guys heard, I want you guys, did you see the leverage that he had? Right? We talk about this, like it has to be bigger than you, right? Like the difference between you making 80,000 and 100,000 isn't. But when you start going down that rabbit hole, like shit, like I'm not going to be able to send my kids to school. They're going to start life in debt and then they're going to be forced to work a job, right? Like get fucking dark with that. So that way it gets you up and moving. Like it has to be some leverage for when you're like, I don't know if I want, like bullshit. Let's go. Let's get this done right now. So I just want to point that out. Well, a ton of people are like, man, they needed this call and stuff. Other questions, comments, concerns? Anybody has? Yeah, talk to me, Jen.
Hey, Josh. Good morning. Super stoked you're on here. Hey, what do you think the top things that you're recommending agents do to make sure they kind of hit their goals for 2025? Anything you're recommending? I know you kind of talked about, having, reach outs and appointments and, your basic sales funnel, but is there any other things you're, kind of pinpointing for 2025?
Yeah. I mean, number one, get extreme clarity on what it is that winning is for you. Like we got to know that target that you're going to hit. My recommendation is not to have vagueness. I'll talk to people. I'll be like, oh, I'd like to close between 30 and 40 units. I'm like, is it 30 or is it 40? Like get extreme clarity on that. Because once you have extreme clarity on the production, then we can reverse engineer the architectural plans to get you there. So have extreme clarity on not just what you want, but why you want it, why it's important to you. I don't think enough people spend enough time on this. Because what you want is the goal, but why you want it and why it's important to you becomes the purpose for that goal. And if you go out there and just because I had to, because I, struggled with, massive like, dude, for 15 years of my life, I didn't go one single day without having at least 12 drinks. Then I had a massive addiction to Adderall. And so I just, shit just exists in my family, a lot of addicts and I, fell into that path myself. And when I was committed to having success with becoming sober on all fronts, and studying people that had success with becoming, sober and breaking big addictions, the number one correlation that they all had in common was they had clarity of purpose for why they must overcome that addiction. So, and it's the same thing when it comes to accomplishing real estate goals. You might be like, well, Josh, I'm not an alcoholic. Like, I'm not as messed up as you are, Josh. Okay. Hopefully you're not. Most people aren't. I get that. But still, okay, for us to increase our production level and get to a different level of success, we have to break a habit of our comfort level. And that's like the worst addiction. I'm truly convinced that the most deadly addiction, the worst addiction that exists out there in today's world is addiction to people's own comfort levels. So it comes down to that same thing. So then when we have extreme clarity on what we want, why we want it, why it's important to us, now we know the target, but then we are extremely clear on like why we must make this reality. We've got the reason, the purpose for that goal. That's going to give you that fuel because none of it's fun. It's like, dude, I get up at 3 a.m. every single day and I hit the gym for 2 hours. Not that I need to hit the gym for there's a reason why I do it. And it sucks every single day. I never want to get up. I never want to do it, but I force myself to do it every single day. But I'm very clear and concise on that reason and that purpose. And then from there, as I said earlier, making sure that you come up with a plan of precision. And right now, my recommendation is to get, like we talked about earlier, strategic offense. So making sure that okay, whom am I going to target that has the highest probability of needing my services in this market? So let's just say I want to go after sellers. Okay, I'm looking at, I could go out there and circle prospect. I could geofarm, but those things are not getting the results that they used to get, because we're in this gridlock environment right now with sellers and buyers. So, okay, like right now, I find that there's 5, at least traditional niches of people going out there and selling. It's like, okay, we got expireds, we got FSBOs, you got absentee owners, you got people going through divorce, and we got NODs, 30 plus day defaults. Like those are hands down, at least in my experience right now, the 5 best niches to go out there and start stacking listings. So targeting, because again, when you look at this, sales is all pain and pleasure. They're experiencing a pain with their current situation. They want out of that pain. They want to get to pleasure. The more pain that they're in, the more urgency that they're going to have to take action. So when I'm talking with agents right now, they're like, hey, dude, I'm doing a lot of lead gen, a lot of lead follow-up, but man, nobody seems to have motivation. I'm like, you're targeting the wrong people. You got to target people with more pain, more urgency. So even on the buy side, like I'm targeting people like let's just say as an example, San Francisco Bay Area. They're moving in droves here to Phoenix, Arizona. But when I'm talking with them, it's like they're living in this 100-year-old house, 1,300 square foot house that's maybe worth 1.5 million, that they no longer feel safe letting their kids ride their bikes in the driveway or on this front street because of all the crime and homelessness. Well, they're able to downsize from a financial perspective, come out here, buy what feels to be a mansion for them for 800 grand. That's brand new with, low to no crime. So to them, this is a massive win, but I'm targeting people with pain. Right? So we want to make sure, okay, who we're targeting. Then from there, get very clear on how you are going to target them. So let's just say I'm going to go after expireds. Okay, yeah, I can door knock them. I can pick up the phone. I could do a mailer campaign, letter campaign. I could take their data, put it into a custom audience on Facebook, target them that way. They're all going to have different timelines. Like I hate cold calls. I'll do them if I need to do them, but if I don't have to do them, I'll do anything that I can to avoid them. I like inbound business people come to me. So like an example, I have a very highly effective expired letter campaign. However, with that expired letter campaign, my average inbound call comes after letter number 8, which is 6.2 months after expiration. So I know that if I'm going to start with that expired letter campaign, it's targeting the same who, but the how dictates timeline, right? So I know that, okay, I'm not going to start seeing an uptick of business and listing business for about 7 months. Well, if I need listings like tomorrow, okay, I'm going to have to get out of my comfort zone and go pound the phones. Right? So we got to then identify, okay, how we're going to target them. Then the next thing is making sure that you got your message on point, because how I speak to an expired is different than how I speak to somebody going through a divorce, different than a FSBO, different than an absentee owner, different than an NOD. You know, how I speak to a Zillow buyer lead is different than an open house lead, different than a Facebook lead. So we want to make sure our messaging is on point, and great marketers understand and know that they match the messaging that's going on in that person's head. You know, now here's the cool part is the message is going to be the same regardless of the how. So like my message to an expired, as an example, on a phone script is really no different than my letter campaign, or if I'm doing an online ad to them, the message is going to be the same. You know, it's just the how is different for the timeline. And then the last thing is making sure that you are nailing the process, because all that low hanging fruit is dried up. So you need to know, okay, how long, how frequent, and which mediums must I follow up to maximize conversions? Because right now you can't. Again, that low-hanging fruit's dried up, man. So we got to make sure we are maximizing on conversions per lead source. So then it's, you know, understanding, okay, if I know that my average Facebook lead is in my CM for 6.7 months before becoming a client, so on average about 9 months for a payday, okay, when that lead source comes in, I have them on 1,000-day email, text, drip campaign follow-up, instant property alerts, plus I'm pounding my calls. You know, like I was talking with a coaching client the other day that's like, hey, you know, I follow up with leads usually about 4 times, and then I get burnt out and I stop. And I'm like, look, with the average lead, like in this market right now, it's about 60 reach outs, 6 conversations to 1 appointment set. I'm like, you're not doing enough frequency to, you might as well just not even invest any money. You're just pissing away your money. So making sure, so this is just like being methodical so you can go out there and crush it with whatever lead source that you're going after. So those would be my biggest suggestions for going into 2025 to crush it, you know, with client acquisition.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for the detail and yeah, just the openness and stuff on that. Totally appreciate it. Anybody else, guys? We're coming up to the top of the hour and stuff here. Anybody else have any final questions that they want to get across?
Yeah, how you doing? It's Ruben Hernandez with EJ Homes. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
All right, great to see you. Sorry, I'm out of breath there. I'm working out, but in the Marine Corps, we do a lot of systems and processes. I was just curious if you could elaborate a little bit on that. I know you touched on it, but just really on a daily grind. What's your first thing in the morning? What 0400? You run, 25 miles. Like what's it look like for you?
Yeah, so there are two different questions there, right? So you got systems process, then we have our schedules, right? So now when it comes to systems and process, because systems and processes, like if you look at this whole entire game, dude, it's a strategy, skill set, and system and process game. That's the whole entire game with real estate. So you got to have the right strategy, got to have acquire the right skill sets that you need to have success with that strategy. But then from there, it comes down, because strategy and skill set will only take you so far. If you want to really scale and have consistency and be able to really scale, it comes down to systems and processes. So, but most people, they'll be like, oh, my systems suck. I need a new system. Josh, what systems do you recommend? I'm like, that's the wrong question. You know, right? Because how systems are defined is all sorts of our strategy. So our strategy is just what is your overall effective plan to get you from where you're at to where you want to go. Then we break down the strategy into actionable steps. Here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. So if you guys can see this, like, okay, this is my agent playbook. These are all of our SOPs. This is everything broken down in my real estate business step by step. Like these are all of our processes. So I got, 50 plus bodies doing all the same things in the same way. Those are all of our broken down processes. And we take those processes and then we put those inside systems, because systems only exist for our processes to live, to ensure that our processes are executed on the same way each and every single time, to ensure things don't get missed, and to allow us to execute on them in the most effective and efficient manner. So how I dictate what systems I need is based on my processes that are again, step-by-steps for my strategy. And it becomes really important. So we're all going to have, because we all have different unique ways of doing our business, they're going to look, my system process are going to look different than Larry's, right? And different than James's and so forth. Then from there, when it comes to schedule, I'm a big believer in, dude, like you got to develop your master schedule, iron that in. Now, my schedule today looks a lot different than, my schedule today is, I get up at 3, I eat, then I walk for a little bit, letting that food digest. Then I train between 4 and 6. Then I meal prep, get ready. Then I'm in the office every day by 8. And then I grind it out till about 6 p.m. Then, 6 p.m. get home, dinner with the family. that I'm passed out by about 8:30. So my schedule looks different today than it. I'll give you an example schedule that I give to agents that are wanting to get to, like individual agents wanting to close a unit per week. So if you're wanting to, do 50 units a year, let's just say, so, okay, start your workday every single day at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. is responding to any urgent messages. So just urgent messages, any urgent messages that you need to respond to, updating your CRM with any, leads that maybe came in the night before, and then prepping for your daily call, prospecting or follow-up calls. Then 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. is pounding the phones, whether your business is inbound or outbound, that 2 hours is going to be pounding the phones. Then 10 to 10:30 is going to be your sphere of influence, past client follow-up. 10:30 to noon is going to be your essential non-money making activities. So that's going to be client updates, responding to any emails, paperwork, ordering inspections, all the essential things that we need to do to, service the business that we have. Then noon on is what I call pounding the pavement time. So this is going to be your listing appointments, buyer consultations, property showings. And if you're not doing any of those, okay, then we're doing either more lead gen, lead follow-up, or working on our systems, processes, and the skill set. So that's kind of an example schedule of what I'll put individual agents on that are looking to, close a deal a week.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you. Very helpful. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it, Ruben.
Man, Joshua, I appreciate all of the insight, man. I'm super excited about your path to 40,000, right? And the amount of people's lives that you'll change. Like I said, I will be out there in Arizona, I think on the 19th of next month. It's a Monday for a tour of ASU, and I'll look at that and see if we can get some time, or even if you and your wife want to get out to dinner. A good friend of mine just opened a restaurant in Old Town Scottsdale called The Inns. It's amazing. So you guys want to join us, let us know, but I'll look at that and then I'll connect with you here soon. Guys, if you guys need anything, call, text, email me. Go out there, take some of this, is what Josh has shared with us. Connect with him, follow him, and use it. Right? All of this shit is worthless if you don't implement any of it, right? Like, that's why we come back. That's why we add different perspectives to find the one that relates to you, that you're actually going to take some action on. So Josh, thank you so much, brother, for everything that you've done and all of the knowledge and stuff. Any final words before we sign off?
Yeah, no, I mean, first off, just thank you guys. It's been an honor spending this time with you. I know how busy you are, and this has been a lot of fun and a true honor. And look, I'll just end with this, man, is, coming from a guy that, came from nothing, that, was what I love about real estate is it is the most level playing field that exists out there of any industry. Doesn't matter how tall, short, good looking, not good looking, thin, overweight you are. Like, it doesn't matter how thick your accent is. It just comes down to how bad do you want it. And I can tell you that this vehicle is the best vehicle that exists out there that I've ever found of any industry. So if you're considering of thinking about, oh man, this is kind of challenging, I should get into the corporate world. The corporate world is far more risky right now than the vehicle that we are in, and you're in the best right vehicle. And yeah, does it take a lot of hard work? Yes, but it's 1,000% worth it. You're worth it. Your family's worth it. So my recommendation is go out there and crush it, because anybody can. Any one of you can. Like I said, our situation doesn't matter. It's just how bad do you want it, which is why I love this vehicle so much.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, brother. I will be in touch here soon, guys. Go out there and crush it this week, and I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great day, guys.
Bye-bye.